So I cannot believe we're still talking about this days later, but here we are. The Grammys are over, the ratings are rough, and Billie Eilish is at the center of a controversy that refuses to die down. Instead of apologizing or backing off, she's doubling down, blaming the public and saying she doesn't want certain fans anyway. Let's talk about how this spiraled so fast and why it's hitting her career right where it hurts. Billie Eilish is officially doubling down after the 2026 Grammys Backlash, and she is not backing down even a little. This video is about Billie's Grammy speech, the political firestorm that followed, and her latest response that has people shaking their heads. Instead of doing damage control, she's basically telling critics that if they hate her now, she's fine with that. And honestly, that might be the most shocking part of all. The Grammys were already under a microscope this year, especially after last year's ratings struggled, and a lot of viewers went in hoping the show would focus more on music. That did not happen. Instead, multiple artists turned their moments on stage into political statements, but Billie's comments quickly became the focal point. Her remarks about ICE, illegal immigration, and what she called a stolen land spread online almost instantly.
Guys, is all I want to say. Sorry.
Within hours, clips were everywhere, and so were the reactions. What really caught people off guard was how strongly she framed it. She didn't hedge, she didn't soften her words, and she didn't leave much room for interpretation. And while the audience in the room applauded, the response at home was a completely different story. Viewers started tuning out, social media lit up, and conversations about the Grammys shifted away from awards and performances to pure controversy. Ratings numbers started circulating, and suddenly Billie's name was tied directly to another Grammys ratings disaster. Now here's where things took a turn. After all, that criticism, a lot of people assumed she would walk things back, clarify, or at least acknowledge the backlash. Instead, she came out swinging. Billie publicly stated that she does not regret what she said, that she meant every word, and that she stands by her comments completely. She framed the criticism as coming from people she doesn't respect anyway, and she made it very clear she is not interested in keeping those fans around. And that moment, right there, is where even longtime supporters started pausing, because one thing to speak your mind, but it's another to openly dismiss millions of listeners and act like losing them doesn't matter, especially when the industry is already struggling and the Grammys are fighting to stay relevant, while this whole thing kept spiraling in a way nobody could ignore. So let's break down exactly what happened, because context matters here. During her appearance at the 2026 Grammys, Billie used her platform to talk about immigration and ICE, making comments that framed the United States as stolen land and questioned the idea of illegal immigration entirely. She spoke with confidence, emotion, and certainty, and the crowd inside the venue responded with loud applause. In that room, it clearly felt like a supportive moment. But the moment viewers at home saw the clips, the tone shifted. People who tuned in for music felt blindsided, and many said it felt less like an awards show and more like a political rally. Almost immediately, online discussions tied her speech to viewers, turning the broadcast off. Whether or not she was solely responsible, her name became one of the most mentioned when people talked about why the Grammys lost them again this year. After the show, the backlash didn't slow down. Instead of issuing a carefully worded statement, Billie addressed it head on. She said she does not take back her words, and that she meant every single one. She claimed that calling people illegal immigrants is wrong because, in her view, the country itself was founded on stolen land. She also suggested that people criticizing her were motivated by hate and political extremism rather than genuine disagreement. She didn't stop there. Billie went on to say that if millions of Americans no longer want to listen to her music because of what she said, she's willing to accept that. She framed it as a moral stance, not a business decision, and made it clear she does not want support from people who disagree with her views. She also described feeling emotional after leaving the stage, not because of backlash, but because of the support she felt from people in the room. She even shouted out other artists, saying she appreciated those who shared or supported similar messages. And while that may have strengthened bonds within certain circles, it widened the gap with others. At that point, this was no longer just about a Grammys speech. It became about how far an artist should go in using entertainment platforms for political messaging, and whether doubling down like this was helping her cause or hurting her career in ways she may not fully see yet. Now this is where things get really interesting, because the internet did what the internet always does. The reactions were loud, emotional, and all over the place. On one side, supporters praised Billie for being brave and standing her ground. They called her honest, fearless, and said this is exactly what artists should be doing with their platforms. Many shared clips of her speech with captions about truth and courage. But on the other side, the criticism was intense. A lot of longtime fans said they felt talked down to or dismissed. Some pointed out that disagreeing with her views doesn't automatically make someone hateful or uneducated. Others said they felt uncomfortable being labeled in such extreme ways just for holding different opinions. And yes, there were plenty of people openly saying they were done supporting her music. What really stood out was how often the phrase, "I used to be a fan," showed up. That's not casual hate. That's disappointment. People who defended her in the past were suddenly saying this felt different. They weren't mad that she spoke about politics. They were frustrated by how she responded afterward, especially the part where she said she doesn't want their support anyway. Social media also latched onto a very specific irony. Reports started circulating that a Native American tribe claimed her mansion sits on land they consider stolen. Whether that claim holds up legally or not, the optics were brutal. People immediately called out the contradiction, saying it's easy to make sweeping statements on stage while living in extreme wealth on disputed land. Meanwhile, others brought up the Grammys themselves, saying this constant political tone is exactly why people are tuning out. Billie became a symbol in a much bigger debate about award shows, celebrity activism, and whether audiences are exhausted by being lectured during entertainment events. At this point, the conversation wasn't even fully about her anymore. It was about what she represented, and that's a heavy position to be in when the reactions keep coming and the dust still hasn't settled. To really understand why this hits so hard, you have to zoom out a bit. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. Award shows have been struggling for years, with declining viewership and growing frustration from audiences who feel disconnected from Hollywood. Many viewers already believe these shows don't represent them, and moments like this reinforce that feeling. Billie Eilish has never been shy about her opinions, and that's part of why many people admired her early on. She was seen as authentic, outspoken, and unafraid to challenge norms. But there's a difference between speaking up and positioning yourself as morally superior, and that line can get blurry fast. When artists frame disagreement as ignorance or hate, it tends to alienate people rather than persuade them. There's also the generational aspect. Younger fans may see this kind of activism as necessary and overdue, while older fans often feel like entertainment spaces are being taken over by lectures. That gap showed up clearly in the response to Billie's comments. What felt empowering to some felt condescending to others, and that split matters when your audience spans millions of people with very different backgrounds. Then there's the business side. Like it or not, music is still a business. Streaming numbers, ticket sales, and brand partnerships all rely on public support. Saying you don't want the business of a huge portion of the population is a bold stance, but it's also a risky one. History shows that artists who openly reject large segments of their audience often feel the impact later, even if it's not immediate. And finally, there's the Grammys themselves. Every year, the conversation seems less about who won and more about what statement was made. That fatigue is real, and Billie's speech landed right in the middle of it. Whether she intended to or not, she became the face of a much larger frustration that's been building for a long time, and that tension was always going to explode eventually. So let's be real and sum this up. Billie Eilish used her Grammys moment to make a strong political statement, faced massive backlash, and responded by doubling down and dismissing critics entirely. That combination is what turned a controversial speech into a full-blown cultural fight. At this point, it's not just about what she said, but how she handled the reaction afterward. My take is this. Artists absolutely have the right to speak their minds, but they also have to live with the consequences. When you frame millions of people as hateful or unworthy of your music, you shouldn't be surprised when some of them walk away. That doesn't mean she's wrong to believe what she believes. It means communication matters, and delivery matters just as much as intent. What happens next is the big question. Will this actually impact her numbers, or will things blow over once the next controversy takes over the timeline? Will the Grammys change anything, or will this just be another chapter in their ongoing ratings struggle? And will Billie soften her tone over time, or continue leaning into this unapologetic stance no matter the fallout? One thing is clear, this moment exposed a real divide between celebrities and audiences, and Billie is now firmly on one side of it. Whether that strengthens her brand or slowly erodes it is something we're going to see play out in real time. But I want to hear from you. Did her comments bother you, or do you respect her for standing firm? Let me know what you think, and we'll keep talking about it.